we are really happy to see you here every week on Wednesday. We know that it's GIMI Think Tank. So GIMI Think Tank, as you know, is a platform where all innovators from around the world, our partners, GIMI partners, come together, and basically we hear every week about a cutting edge trend or the innovation state of a country or innovation management tools, or how our partners are democratizing innovation around the world and what are the efforts that they are doing to advance it. So today I'm really happy to have Nicolas with us basically, and I'll leave the introduction to Enrique for Nicolas, and then we'll hear a great topic like digital skills and entrepreneurship and how it's driving prosperity through certification. I believe it's very interesting because we are a certifying body on innovation, and there are many dots here to connect, and hopefully we will have many an opportunity to collaborate, basically to extend also our portfolio in here. So let me share the screen, and Enrique, please go ahead with the introduction.
Sure. Thank you so much, Arila. Well, Nick, how are you? Good morning, good afternoon, good night, everybody. Good evening. My name is Enrique Mesones, certified training partner in Lima, Peru. And I met actually Nick in Guayaquil, Ecuador, while we were introducing his team with Lucia Curio and GIMI in the city of Guayaquil. Actually, Nick is a tremendous, person. He's the director of STEM and CT programs at Certiport. And basically he managed, foundation level programs such as IC3 digital literacy and the ESB entrepreneurship and small businesses certifications. The idea is to bring people out of poverty into prosperity in this, digital age. So he's doing a tremendous job around the world, and I thought that it would be very interesting, to not only to hear what he does, but also how we can collaborate in the future. So, Nick, thank you for for being available today. Please. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Enrique. Thanks for the invitation. It was great to meet you. Thanks to everybody for joining this morning. I really appreciate this opportunity. I'm passionate about innovation and really excited to chat with you, let you know some of the things that the company I'm with, Certiport, which is a division of Pearson VUE, what we're doing, where we want to go, and get some insights from this think tank. I'm going to share my screen. Give me a second here to do this properly, and then I'll just need somebody to verify that you can see my slides.
Yes,
yes. Excellent. Okay. So the topic today, digital skills and entrepreneurship, driving prosperity through certification. Really driving prosperity is a life purpose for me. We really want to do what we can to give people opportunities, to give them uplift in their life. And we're seeking to find the best way to do that. I want to back up. Enrique mentioned this before. We met 2 weeks ago in Guayaquil, and here's a picture of that day. That's me on the right. I'm looking up at the confetti falling from the ceiling. I know you can see right up my nose, but that's what I'm doing. I'm looking at the confetti falling from the ceiling. To my right is Lucia Curio, who's also here. She's with Grupo Edutech. Her group was really instrumental in making this day happen. She's a good friend. We've been working together for many years. I know she's been working on making this happen. What we made happen is, what the mayor of Guayaquil, Mayor Cynthia, is holding in her hand, which is a declaration that the city of Guayaquil is a STEAM territory. And This is exciting. It's not just a performative act. There's really some meat behind what's happening here. I'll talk a little bit about this, but I wanted to show you, like, this is where I met Enrique. And in fact, in this next picture, this was the audience. We were all on stage. This was, I think, before the confetti fell. You can actually see Enrique in the front row wearing sunglasses. It was a huge room filled with over 1,000 people, standing room only. Most of the people in this room were students. So they were about 100 schools with represented all across Guayaquil, and their principals. And they came to learn about this declaration of Guayaquil becoming a STEAM territory, wanting to bring their city into the fourth industrial revolution. But what were they actually doing? What are we actually doing this year? And their commitment is to certify their students. They have made it a commitment to deliver over 50,000 certifications to the students, some of which are in that room. 40,000 of those certifications are going to be on the Certiport program, the IC3 Digital Literacy Program. And then an additional 5,000 will be on another Certiport program we developed called Entrepreneurship and Small Business. And then an additional mix of other programs that Certiport has in our portfolio. So that's kind of the excitement where we got here today. We're really driving prosperity through education, through this declaration of certification. I want to back up and just tell you what all of this means, what Certiport does, what the programs we have do, what innovations we've brought so far, and then I'm going to lead that into where we want to go, and I'm hoping to get some insights from you, our innovators. So I'm going to talk about the Certiport Academic Solutions. Certiport is a division of Pearson VUE, which you probably know is a delivery of professional level certifications across all areas, IT, non-IT. If you're a real estate developer, chances are you're going to a Pearson VUE test center to take that exam and become certified. We're also a division, of the greater Pearson mega education giant based out of London. So Certiport, we started in 1997 with one certification. We partnered with Microsoft to deliver Microsoft Office exams, the official certification exams. And we've grown since then. We now deliver millions of exams. We've got 14 different programs. So, Microsoft, Apple, Adobe, Autodesk, a number of other programs, Project Management Institute. We deliver through a channel of over 15,000 test centers. Generally, these are schools that are setting themselves as test centers. We're in 148 countries. We're translated into 30 languages. We understand this academic market. It's really difficult market. How do you build products that are in that sweet spot, right? Where if somebody passes a certification, they are employable, and that's recognized by employers, but it's also achievable by somebody in a secondary school or early post-secondary school. That's what kind of our superpower is, building a program that can meet both of those opposing needs. So we build out these entry-level, medium stakes exams, right? If you've ever gone into a Pearson VUE test center, it's like entering a prison. You have to empty your pockets. Everything gets put into a locked cell. You're watched by cameras as you take the exams. Those are very high stakes exams. Certiport exams, when we're talking about these entry-level skills, they're not as high stakes, they're medium stakes. So you're proctored by your teacher or somebody, a librarian in your school, or a trainer in a training facility. So it's a little easier to get set up as a test center. We're really focused on these high volume skills. What are skills that are needed across multiple jobs? And what do we do that can build that foundation for success, right? If you're going to be in any job that requires you to use a computer, there's a certain level of skills that you need to have that, whether you're going to be a word processor or a data analyst or even a waiter or a real estate broker. You need to know how to use a computer. So there are programs that we built that have done that. Like I said, our channel is massive. We're in 148 countries, 15,000 test centers. These represent secondary schools, high schools, post-secondary institutions, generally tech colleges, community colleges in the US, associate level colleges. And then we're also in commercial training centers. And we do a lot of workforce development. So we have a library network, for example, in New Jersey and Maryland that are training people to get into the digital age with our IC3 program. So these are some of the programs. Many of them are brands you'd recognize: Adobe, Autodesk, Intuit, Microsoft, Unity. And then there are some ones that we built internally because we saw a need in the market, a need to raise people up to a certain level of skills where there wasn't a single brand that was affiliated for it. And I'll talk a little bit about those more in advance, but really what we were launching in Guayaquil was the IC3 digital literacy certification. What are the foundation level digital skills? And entrepreneurship and small business. What do you need to get into business, to build a sustainable business officially, how to start it, how to get that entrepreneurial mindset, how to do your finances, marketing, and sales. We're always looking for new programs. So if you're interested in being part of our portfolio, let me know. We're adding new programs, every year. I want to back up and just talk, I always think in business model canvas, I'm talking to an innovators. Let's put this into business model canvas terms. What's the value of certification? And traditionally, the value of certification is an industry recognized certification is something that an employer recognizes and understands. So if you are certified and you walk in the door of an employer and you say, please give me this job because I have these skills, and here is a third-party industry recognized certification that demonstrates I know that. That's a traditional value. So I, as an individual, I'm interested in increasing my job possibilities. I'm going to get certified. I'm going to go and present that to a new employer. But when you look at something like entrepreneurship, right, that's a really weird idea for a traditional value proposition for certification, right? If I want to be an entrepreneur, why on earth would I want to get certified so that I can give myself a piece of paper to say, hire me, right? That doesn't make sense. But what does make sense is the way the value of certification has changed, especially when we're looking at these foundation level skills like IC3 and ESB, right? The mayor of Guayaquil wants her citizens to get into the digital age. She wants her citizens to become entrepreneurs and start new businesses and become sustainable businesses that create jobs in her community, right? So she's interested in doing that. But what folks have found in the past is you look at investment in education, and it's like it feels like throwing money into a hole in the ground, right? If you invest in infrastructure and you pay for roads and bridges, after you pay the money, you can go and you can see where those roads and those bridges were built. If you've been investing in education, that's a challenge, right? You don't know if that's paid off for a long time. And that's the value that we bring with this certification, right? If you invest in education on specific topics like digital literacy, entrepreneurship, you can see at the end of the school year how many students have achieved that certification. And you can use that as a measurable metric for return on investment. It measures the outcomes of education. It's not just how many students are sitting in chairs in the classroom, it's how many students have achieved the specific skills and knowledge that you want them to learn. So that morphing in the value is what we've discovered, and that's somewhat of an innovation that we found to be really successful. And when we're talking with government funders, the state of Florida, for example, last year invested $14 million in entrepreneurship education and training. And every one of those dollars was tied to the student achievement of the ESB certification from Certiport. We see private foundational funding, corporate social responsibility. Our partner Intuit is driving design thinking skills into schools, and they are investing in these schools and tying it to the achievement of Intuit's Design for Delight certification that is managed by Certiport. And then we're seeing international funding. We're talking with groups in USAID, European Union, United Nations, all about how to get more funding for education and have, because politicians think in short terms. Education is a long-term initiative. Politicians think in short terms. How do you give an opportunity for your politician to stand on stage and wave a metric saying, we've been successful in the time they're still in office? That's the value that we bring. So that's the main value. How do we actually do it? How do we actually get our students there? And we talk about it in a pathway, right? So certification is a third step in the pathway towards advancement to where you're building a business, you're getting a new job, you're becoming prosperous, right? That's that advance. So certification is that step just before advancement. But to get there, you need what we call learn, practice, and then certify. So learning is what is the curriculum they're going to use that's going to drive them to be successful and pass that certification. Practice is, it's like a practice test. How do you take out that test jitters? Ultimately, you need to take an exam to demonstrate knowledge and skills. How do we give you an opportunity so that you can understand what the test is going to be like? So you're not, so you're ready for the test. So you're just measuring really what your skills and knowledge are, and not can you take a test. So we bundle all of this together in learn, practice, and certify. And when we have our learning content, we have multiple options for learning content. Even though we are a division of Pearson, we're not exclusively using Pearson products to get this into schools. It's a huge audience. There's not a one size fits all. So we seek out who are the best of breed learning curriculum providers that we can recommend to our audience and then give them options to buy. So there are multiple things. There's books, there's ebooks, there's videos, there's online learning. There's a lot of options. There's one that I'm going to talk about in a sec that I feel we're missing that I need your help with. So I won't go through all of this, but what we do when we build our certifications is define what it means to have that knowledge, skills, and abilities. We built out the IC3 digital literacy framework. We base this on existing frameworks that came from the European Union DigComp framework, from the ISTE framework, from the UNESCO frameworks. But we took all of those and we made them actionable, right? What can you actually measure, and what can somebody learn, at this specific level? So there's 7 different domains that they cover. When somebody is certified, they can feel confident that they're ready for these 7 different domains. I'll share this out with you, or you can go to the certiport.com website and see these. Same thing for entrepreneurship. There are 4 main domains that we cover in that program. Do you know how to be an entrepreneur? Do you know basic business concepts? Do you know marketing and sales, production, distribution, and then business finance? So that's a great, when you define it, and this was defined with partnership with we have a board of advisors that we brought together. Grupo EduTech is on that. But we have folks from the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, NIFTY, the Council for Economic Education. We've got folks from, we had folks from the state of Louisiana and now the state of Florida. We had the Council for Economic Education. And it was just a really good group that brought together to help us define this. And so we've got a lot of confidence, and we've seen that when students have these skills, they're ready to enter the workforce or build their own business. So this is the part where I need your help. This is the big challenge, right? What we're seeing is, digital literacy and entrepreneurship is really needed. Guayaquil is a great example. That's an urban zone, right? They've got a really well-defined school network. Guayaquil's built out their connectivity. All the schools are connected. We see massive opportunities in rural areas and growth markets, right? Rural Africa. The mountains of South America, Enrique, we talked about this. Southeast Asia, we're seeing massive growth in rural areas in Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Thailand, those areas. We're trying to figure out what's the best way to meet this audience where they are. We can get the certifications to them. We need to figure out how to get the learning to them. And so that's really what I'm going to put forward for this challenge. And I'd love to get some feedback from you. I'm hoping that I sort of set this up well. If anybody has any questions they want to ask, please ask. But thank you for this opportunity, and let's have a discussion.
Well, actually, go ahead, Bob. Go ahead, Bob.
Nick, how much, Bob Schultz, University of Calgary, Escane School of Business in Western Canada. I'm also on the board for RoboGarden, might be a really good partner because RoboGarden is already working with Pearson in Brazil and has coding skills for all of Uruguay national contract. So my question is, how much does it cost per person to be certified?
It varies per program, and we can do, like, I think with Guayaquil, we just did a flat rate for the city. So there's really a lot of different models. I don't want to get into the actual costs of it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a per person fee. We do licenses for schools. We do licenses sometimes for entire nations.
Okay, but would it be in like the dollar range, the $10 range, $100 range of all of those?
Depending on volume, you could hit any of those.
If you looked at those, and one more question, if you looked at what you're certifying, I wasn't quite sure which components. For example, could people be certified in website development, coding skills, etc., or is it more? Is it a lower level than that?
So we start with the IC3 is the lowest level. That's really your entry into digital skills. And then it grows from there. You can go from there to Microsoft Office skills, to Adobe creativity. Then we get into coding skills. We have our IT specialists, which would get you into Python. We've got Apple's Swift coding that's available. And then it goes up from there. So that's kind of the stackable credentials that we offer.
Nicholas, if you can maybe stop presenting and then we can put the heads over there so we can see each other. Sure. We have a dialogue. That's the next thing, unless you got more slides.
No, that's it.
All right. Nicholas, my name is Hitendra Patel. I'm the organizer of the GIMI think tank. And first, I just want to let you know that was a great presentation. And I think
Thank
what
you.
you're talking about is absolutely critical in what we have to do in the future, right? I'm gonna keep on stepping back and forth. So I like to provoke as much as I can. Entrepreneurship is not really a skill, or let me say it like this. If somebody's poor and he says, I'm going to go to the casino, you'd probably discourage them from going to the casino. If somebody's wealthy and says, I'm going to the casino, go ahead, have fun, and come back and you still got your house if you lose all your money at the casino. So entrepreneurship is one of those really risky things that we are asking everybody to do around the world today, saying it's a cool, fun thing. And everybody should be an entrepreneur. But entrepreneurship has risk. 1 out of 99, 1 out of 100 makes it, 5 out of 100 makes it. And to go into rural areas and poor areas and say, let's make you entrepreneurs might be might be a dangerous statement. I think digital literacy is critical. I do believe that the skills you're teaching are critical, but the word entrepreneurship and making it cool is dangerous. Just the thoughts for you as you go into these rural areas, even in the United States. Remember this much. Most of our great entrepreneurs are middle-class kids working in dad's garage, and they drop out of college called Harvard and Stanford.
Yeah.
And therefore they're great heroes out there typically. So the danger about entrepreneurship right now has become the word of the day is very, very cool, and everybody wants a unicorn. But the reality of it is it's a tough slog, and you want to make sure you're careful and cautious as you take the steps forward.
I'd love to address that. I think that's a really good point, and I think it's the main reason why we call our certification Entrepreneurship and Small Business. And so what we found, and what the goal, one of the goals we had in addressing that is that we were dealing with large populations. We call in our country opportunity youth, because we're Americans and we very positive looking. Opportunity youth are people that are out of work and out of school. They felt like they were not fitting into school. It wasn't a good place for them, but then they didn't have the skills to get a job, and so they were lost. And what we've seen and what we've worked with those groups is when you say, hey, we want to teach you how to be an entrepreneur, when you ask them to go back to school, they say, I don't want to go back to school. When you ask them, hey, would you be interested in being an entrepreneur? They get out of bed, they get out of their place, they come in and they want to learn. And we teach them. And what we found is that 70%, in this specific exam, 70% of the people we taught went on to work for other companies.
Yep.
Right. So we've taught them the skills they need, and they recognize, hey, oh, that's why my boss was telling me to do that thing that I didn't want to do. They understood it, and they came out of it as being more employable. So I don't think everybody in the world should be an entrepreneur and run a business, but one, we have to teach these skills that are not being taught, and two, we need to identify the people that can do that, because if you do not have a strategy to create new businesses, you don't have a jobs plan, right? The Kaufman Foundation said all net new jobs in our country come from businesses that are 5 years old or younger. So you don't have a plan to help people create new businesses, you don't actually have a jobs plan.
Nick, we are thinking very much. We teach in business school across the globe. And in the business schools, entrepreneurship has become the flavor of the month, and everybody's trying to study entrepreneurship. Comes graduation, before graduation, you ask who wants to be an entrepreneur, every hand goes up. By the time graduation comes along, only 2 or 3 have actually started the journey. The rest are looking for jobs. And that's typically the thing. So we are advocating to a large extent that entrepreneurship should be taught and learned and mastered, but it's an education, which then through some later moment, the right moment, the inspiration will come and the money will be available, the risk profile will be right, and then you go do what you have to do in parallel. So in the business schools, that's what we are seeing a lot more of. I want to just pivot a little bit on the conversation. In this group over here, we have got people who are doing economic development, and they are being pulled by the governments of Guatemala or the governments of El Salvador or Colombia through the Minister of Science or Economic Development, saying, We need to increase the entrepreneurship of the country or the innovation of the company. And that gap is digital literacy is one of them, of course.
Yeah.
Right. And the other one is, of course, just getting people to get started in the rural areas. So you are talking to the right audience.
Good.
For sure.
I was hoping
My
so.
question to you is, we as a group have got programs that are also trying to accelerate small businesses, not startups. Typically, we don't really work with startups. We work with small businesses. And on the small businesses, we work in cohort models, 30 companies, 50 companies in parallel, and take them through a 8-week, 12-week journey. And at the end of it, they are able to do something more than they were doing before, right? So forget the methodology. I can see either digital stuff being bolted on, entrepreneurship stuff bolted on in parallel to these things. So in those business models, is your solutions digital or is it really face-to-face? What's the mode of transfer of knowledge so that they can actually get the knowledge, practice the knowledge, and then get certified, as you said, and ultimately the last part of the journey.
Yeah.
So could you explain how somebody could work with you in parallel?
Yeah, so there's no one size fits all on this. So Guayaquil is a good example, right? We connected with 100 different schools. Lucia Correo's group EduTech has curriculum that's in Spanish that they're training the teachers. It's going to be a classroom-based courses that are taught in schools across that city.
Okay,
that's a model. It's not the only model. We have self-paced learning as well, online learning. We have video learning. So you can go into a library and you could go through a self-paced learning tool that's with a sort of a flipped classroom approach where you've got a facilitator that will set that up and then help you when you have questions. I think the challenge we're facing when we go into these rural areas is they don't necessarily have a critical mass of schools and classrooms. They don't have the necessary connectivity to drive, video-rich technology or these, online classes that you need connectivity to. So we're looking for additional options. That's like the main challenge that I'm putting here is what other ways can we do it? How are people in those areas learning, and what can we do to bring them our material?
Got it. Nick, we have programs in the US also. I'm going to ask Julie to maybe introduce it so you can hear it, which are also in the United States, where we've got companies which are struggling through digital literacy. So maybe Julie, if you want to just introduce your program, and I'm going to ask Lucia to ask a question after that. But Julie, can you just introduce the LISC program that you guys are working on? You're on mute, Julie.
Yep, sure. I would love to. Nick, great presentation, and I've got all these questions in, and I even posted one. But want to introduce one program that we are working with a partner called LISC, Local Initiatives Support Corporation, and they are a great partner, nonprofit focused on really leveling the playing field in underserved communities. We do cohort-based training, and our model is one where we bring in student consultants. IXL is sort of the center pin. We bring in clients and they work from 5 to 7 weeks on projects with really concrete deliverables at the end. So the students do get a certification. It's in management skills, and that's just to give them a foundation for the work they do during the program. But the rest of it is to have the students work with the clients as consultants and delivering them, anything from a new strategy to double their business, or the cohort group that we're doing now, which is childcare, home childcare providers, where we're really there to help stabilize their business, bring efficiencies, help them get full enrollment. So it's very exciting. And so it's very exciting to hear what you're doing for similar communities.
Great. Where are you based, Julie?
I'm with, this is another program in IXL Center, and we are based all around the world, but I'm in the Cambridge office.
Okay.
And this project we're doing is in the Boston area.
Okay. I'm in
But it
Providence.
is also all remote.
Yeah, I'm in Providence. So yeah, but yeah, that sounds really interesting. I'd love to learn more and see if there's any synergies that we could find.
I think so.
Great. We got a question from Lucia. Lucia, I'm going to put you on and hang on at spotlight. Make sure your microphone is on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Well, just to share with you, first of all, about what Nick was mentioning about the model we are implementing in Guayaquil. We are going to do a mix. The main model is going to be with high school students, that last year high school students in that model that Nick was summarizing. But the other one also that we have been including because of all that, the expectation of the city is to open the opportunity for citizens. Not matter how old they are, they can be registered to participate on these programs. We also have this concept of NINI, which in Spanish is no estudia, ni estudia ni trabaja. In English, we can say no, not studying, not working. To these people that could have the opportunity to develop the skills to really get well trained. And this city, Guayaquil, is a unique city that you have connectivity in different points of the city for free for 90 minutes per day for the citizens. Okay, so that's a really a good input that we needed to make this possible. But the other thing I wanted to mention very briefly is related to what some of you were asking about. What we have with ESB, Entrepreneurship and Small Business, is really what, for example, Latin Americans need, because we all in Latin America think we get born with a chip, an entrepreneurship chip, of course, we have this mindset, let's say, not mindset, we have the spirit of being entrepreneurs, but then we really realize after 1 year or so that we are wrong. We are in the rankings of perhaps the second in the ranking, in the world ranking, or third or fourth in different countries such as Peru or Ecuador and other ones, as the really big spirit entrepreneurship countries. But when we really want to be to succeed on these projects, we can say that the statistics are showing us that only 10% or 11% of these projects are successful. Okay, so we really demonstrate that we need those skills. We really need to learn about all the chapters that are involved to really develop a successful and a sustainable entrepreneurship. Okay, that's something I wanted to mention. Thank you.
Well, that's great. Thank you very much for that input, because you are on the ground, and this is relevant. I think you're absolutely correct. Entrepreneurship is part of our DNA. It's part of all of our DNA, and it inspires, excites people. So I do believe that's there. The only thing I was cautioning everybody over here is entrepreneurship and education, and then there are a whole series of labs that you practice, and you make it better and better and you're successful? Or is it a one-shot thing and then you're in danger of doing it? So how you teach it is really important so that we don't put all our eggs in one basket and then really hurt people who don't have a lot of income to take the risks that they can't really afford. So I'm just trying to provide a framework on this thing, as I think Nicholas was also, in terms of saying there's a framing here on entrepreneurship. Not everybody can afford to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody should be an entrepreneur, and everybody can aspire to be an entrepreneur, of course. I think everybody should have entrepreneurial skills for sure, entrepreneurship skills for sure. And Lucia, that's all I'm trying to say is around the world, I've seen people going bankrupt, and when they go bankrupt, we don't care about them. We don't see them because we are all middle class. But there are people far more poor people than us, and when they go bankrupt, they lose the farm, they lose the restaurant, they lose the car, they lose the house. And it's terrible, the terrible economic hardships that they face. So I just want to balance our conversation on how we should message what we all agree is important.
Yeah, I can address that again. Also, one of the partners that came in to help us develop the ESB certification was the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, NIFTY. And if you're not familiar with them, you really should become familiar with them because they're an amazing organization. And they started teaching entrepreneurship I think in the Bronx, in New York City, in the Bronx, to really underserved kids. And their method is about, using the entrepreneurial mindset. And one of the things that I learned from them is that true entrepreneurs are not big risk takers. Successful entrepreneurs,
That's right.
they understand risk. They know how to mitigate risk. So one of the big lessons we teach is that being an entrepreneur doesn't mean taking a risk. It means understanding the risks. And so that's something that we built into the program. It is an important part of it. And I hope that sort of offsets some of the concerns that you have, because we share those concerns.
So Lucia and Nicholas, I want to be clear. I'm supporting what you're saying. I support the fact that we need to spread the message and do this. So please don't misunderstand. I just want to put a little caveat in there saying we just got to be careful how we message this thing. And we are right behind you pushing it across the globe. And
I want to just, we put a lot of effort into building these programs. Lucia knows, she's seen a lot of the behind the scenes on how we did this. So, we've thought through a lot of these things. And so, the more you look into what we have, I think, the more you'll like.
Perfect. Nicholas, Lucia, I would like to bring Arilla onto the conversation here. Arilla, I hope you're able to talk on the spot. Arilla and her team have been working on another program which kind of complements what you do, but again, could kind of help each other do things. The emphasis on labs. The emphasis is labs are the only way to learn entrepreneurship or social entrepreneurship and other things. And Arilla, if you want to talk about your Waterloo program in Canada and how you guys are trying to roll it out in high schools around the world in terms of social enterprise.
Yeah. So basically, Nicholas, and I believe you have heard this before from Lucia, because Lucia is a champion of, and she really likes GIMI Impact. But GIMI Impact is a social innovation program, and we built this and we pilot for the first time in Waterloo, Canada. We were lucky because we had the support of the region, and that's why we started this as a pilot in all these high schools. What we did, our curricula and basically our pedagogy is all learned by doing. So basically they learn the innovation framework and tools in a simplified way. What we have for adults, we have simplified. On the other hand, they learn how to solve a social challenge. Might be a macro social challenge, might be something related to their school, something related to their community. But basically, there are two main goals there. Embed to them like innovation mindset. And secondly, make them aware of all the challenges around so they can become the next action leaders, the next change leaders, basically. So we have a curricula, it's basically split in 12 sessions. It's all, they work in teams. The teacher is doing like a recap, what is the session about, and they work individual, pair, and groups in every session. And in the end, they come up with a final project. They present in front of a judging panel. Usually the judging panel is a teacher, is the high school director, and might be somebody from the region or from the community. They present, somehow they compete within the teams, and luckily the region puts some funds available to invest in the best, projects. We want to do the same, in other regions. There are many ways how we can do it. One is NGOs that basically they can start do this as non-formal training. Second, which is the one that we really feel will scale up the program, is by embedding this somehow, in the curricula, which we know is difficult. We know how rigid is the system, but basically we are trying. And what we did, let's say in Canada, was a selective sort of course, and every teacher, the geography teacher, the math teacher, they raised the hand and they said, okay, I'm going to try it because in the end, I see this curricula. I want to learn the innovation tools, how I can embed also in my traditional classes. This is how it started basically there. And now they are trying to get the permission, how they can increase into 1,000 students. They did it for 400. It started very small in the beginning. They said, we will start with 100. It went to 400. And now it's going to roll out and scale up more. This is something to work on, and I believe we can have a conversation together, Nicolas and Lucia, how we can do for maybe Guayaquil and see how we can replicate in other places. Yes, Lucia?
Thanks.
No, yeah, Nick, please.
You know, I mean, I think this is an exciting project. I just want to make sure the scale of the challenge I'm talking about is we're looking, how do we train over 2 million people in several thousand villages in the upper area of Egypt, for example, or, there's 200 million people living in Nigeria. How do we get these skills out to 10 million of them? Those are the challenges that I'm being asked right now, and what I'm seeking help on. I think the program you have is great. I think it fit, you're fitting with classrooms, you're growing it that way. I'm looking to, like, how do we scale this up massively now?
So Nicholas, I think where I was going to, the reason I wanted you guys to talk to each other is the group in Canada also wants to scale it across the whole school system of Canada. They want to scale it across the United States into school systems. So different channels to spread, like using pilots first to validate what happens, but then you scale it out. So the notion over here is there's some fundamental designs which are almost akin to your certification design, where you got to learn, you got to practice, you got to get certified, and then you got to have a pathway. So there's a learn, certify, to practice and certify in what Ariella described. But the thing that makes it attractive for scaling purposes is a single challenge. So it's challenge based. So you can throw a challenge across Egypt. So all the schools, here's the challenge. Let's do climate change solutions. And all the students across this thing will work across the same project, the same question, the same methodology, and therefore they can go through it. And at the end of it, there's a certification for it to perhaps do it. So the idea over here is, I think you are already far ahead on the digital side. These guys are early on the piloting of how to maybe do these things. Some bridging of those two things together can allow some sort of scale approaches. But we are creating, I believe Ariella and others are creating pilots in different parts of the world to which is evidence. And therefore that evidence then with the right partners can scale things up. So that's maybe the thing that we want to connect on over here. Saying
I'd love to. I would love to connect to Ariella. Let's try and find some time to connect after this.
Okay. Sure. Other questions in terms of certifications as they go on, and Nicholas, I'm going to ask as a challenge question to you is, today we are seeing Verizon or Comcast creating also support tools for entrepreneurship and small businesses because they have a whole bunch of clients who are using the phones. In the same way, we got Bank of America providing small business and entrepreneurship tools. So through the bank, you can access this sort of knowledge, and they're creating online courses, videos, and kind of decent curriculum and decent output that somebody might not be able to tell the difference between what you have versus what these guys have. What is the differentiation that we can actually say you have that this other very, very glitzy, and I want to use the word glitzy, it's shiny, it's polished, it's got great videos, they got billions of dollars of marketing behind them to make it look really attractive, but all they want to do is keep customers. That's their objective. Correct. And yet they're claiming the same thing.
So first of all, I wouldn't see them as a competition to what we do. I see them as part of the ecosystem of what we're all trying to accomplish, right? So that's the number one thing. The main value proposition of what we bring is we can confirm that an individual has learned a specific set of knowledge and skills, right? And so we measure that at the individual level. And so and we've seen this with other programs, right? I'm talking with a group about financial literacy. Lot of education going on about financial literacy. All these banks, all these major institutions that you know are pushing financial literacy education into schools. But what the research is showing is that at the end of the day, when students need those financial skills that they were supposed to have been taught, they don't have those skills. They didn't actually learn it. So there's no validation that the learning is occurring. That's what we do. We confirm that a student at the individual level has learned what they are supposed to have learned. And so if you are a Verizon and you want more people to have digital skills, or you want more people to be entrepreneurs, it doesn't matter how much you invest in getting people to sit in classes or to put books in their hands. It matters, did anybody actually learn that material? And I can think of, it's all about how do the funders fund their programming. And I think back on a really good example when we're starting in the digital literacy space. This was probably in the UK maybe 20 years ago. The UK government wanted to get their own citizens digitally literate. And so they funded companies to provide educational materials to end users. And what did people do? Oh, there's money if I provide materials to people. So they went door to door, they went to old age homes, they passed out CD-ROMs, they got people to write that they received educational materials, and people used the CD-ROMs as a coaster to hold their cup, right? And no learning occurred.
Yep.
And so we came in and say, no, what you have to measure is, did anybody actually learn this? That's where you need to tie your educational funding. And we're seeing that happening. We're seeing that, in Florida, career and technical education, and spreading out across the country and around the world. They're tying that demonstration of achievement and learning to the funding.
That's great. So there's two things, I think, Nicholas, maybe three things Nicholas is asking to the community. So all of you are listening in on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn. One, if you have access to the school systems and the environment of rural areas anywhere in the world, get in touch with Nicholas. Nicholas is interested in trying to get those numbers up. He's trying to train not 10 people, but 10 million. And if he can do that, the whole rural demographics will change, and their contribution to the economy as a whole will change, and they'll be participating in what this next generation of opportunities are. So this is a mission, it's a social mission, and it certainly helps all of us and all of society. So that's number one. Find him access to rural areas, wherever you are, whether through your government, through nonprofits, through whatever there is, number one. Number two, he's also looking for other products that could bolt on within their certificate system as part of his portfolio. And in those products, they need to be digital and scalable, because he's still looking at a mission which is large. So it can't be clunky and messy and face-to-face, which requires a lot of human resources, and then therefore expensive and not scalable. And so if you have got a product that fits into this thing, consider doing that. And the last part of this thing is, for any of your programs, consider bolting on some of their programs, which are all digital, and therefore you can start a journey of learning to know what they do, what you guys do, and both sides can see what's going on, and maybe you can evolve into more conversations. And that's all it is, more conversations that could convert into a partnership that could become bigger, that we don't even know what we really want to do. And so new surprises come out of that. Nicholas, is that fair in terms of what I summarized?
Excellent. Thank you. Perfect. Really appreciate the summary, the opportunity to meet and chat with all of you. Enrique, thank you for suggesting this and bringing it in. Let's not stop here. Let's continue the conversation. I know a number of you have already connected to me on LinkedIn. Please get in touch with me, and I'll share out my contact information too.
Nicholas, I for one will be reaching out to you, because we got a portfolio of products that we want to talk to you about. Both Ariela and Julie probably will reach out to you also. And then we need to talk about the things that is right behind Enrique. On his wall is a whole bunch of knowledge that needs to be certified, and it is being certified by the GIMI, Global Innovation Management Institute, but a partnership and all that can scale it out into becoming even bigger and bolder with you guys that could spread through your channels and vice versa through the content and testing even. Are we testing mastery or are we just testing memorization? And those kind of things, right? So which you guys are experts at.
Exactly. You know, we're looking for the right outcomes. So,
Okay.
but
All right, so here's what we're going to do. First of all, I'm going to wrap this session up. Stay on the line, Nicholas. We're going to talk a little bit more afterwards when we wrap this thing up. For everybody tuning in into the Global Innovation Management Institute's think tank, thank you very much for participating again. We do this every week. We either talk about innovation trends which are going on around the world, or what's next and what else. We talk about innovation management, on how to manage innovation 4.0, and what's next and what else in terms of how to do that. And number 3, what's going on innovation around the world by geographies, where we learn about what's going on in Japan, or what's going on in South Africa, or the United States, or Mexico. We look forward to seeing all of you again next week. We had a great presenter today, Nicholas Haber, and he talked about certification on entrepreneurship and small businesses, and he also talked about digital literacy. Please reach out, continue connecting. As our philosophy is, together we can. And as Ron would say, and we will. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for joining in.
thank you.
Thank you very much.